Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Jasodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana. Jasodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana. Jamuna Tira Vanachari. Jamuna Tira Vanachari. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamin Iti Namane. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarane. Trinadapi Sunichena Torariva Sahishnuna Amanina Manadena Kirtaniya Sadahari. Harenama 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 Kevalam Kalau Nastyeva 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 Gatiranyata. Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Srivas Adi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Welcome everyone to ISKCON SanDiego, home of the most beautiful Sri Sri Radha Giridhari. My name is Nirantara Dasa. I was initiated by Srila Prabhupada in 1974, and I am invited once in a while to come here and speak Krishna Katha. Tomorrow is a special holy day. It is the day that Lord Balarama dances his Rasa-lila. Krishna dances his Rasa-lila, and Balarama, not to be outdone, also performs Rasa-lila. So I'm going to speak on this topic. What I've done is I've combined Prabhupada's Krishna book narration along with the narration and purports of the 10th canto. and I have blended them together. Hopefully, you will find it uplifting for your Krishna consciousness. Since we are speaking on Srimad Bhagavatam, please repeat after me. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So in Jayadev Goswami's Dash Avatar Stotram, he refers to an aspect of this pastime by the following prayer. Vahasiva pushi vishade vasanang jaladhabang halahati bhiti milita yamunabam keshavadrita haladharupa jaya jagadisha hare jaya jagadisha hare jaya jagadisha hare. So Lord Balaram, Krishna's first expansion and simultaneously his elder brother, has different names. One of his names is Haladhar, the holder of the plow. So let's get into the narration. Once Lord Balaram became very anxious to see his father and mother in Vrindavan, and therefore with great enthusiasm he started on a chariot from Dwaraka for Nanda Gokula. Lord Balaram was also eager to visit his well-wishing friends. Remembering the deep friendship he once enjoyed with the cowherder folk, Lord Ram went alone to Vraja after having taken Lord Krishna's permission. When Lord Balaram returned to Vrindavan, all the cowherder boys and gopis had grown up, but still, upon his arrival, they all embraced Balaram, and Balaram embraced them in reciprocation. After this, Balaram came before Nanda and Yashoda, offering respectful obeisances, and in response, Yashoda and Nanda offered their blessings unto Balaram. They addressed Balaram as Jagad Ishwara, Lord of the universe, who maintains everyone. And the reason for this was that Krishna and Balaram both maintain all the living entities. And yet, Nanda and Yashoda were put into such difficulties on account of the absence of Krishna and Balaram. Feeling like this, Nanda and Yashoda embraced Balaram, and seating him on their laps, they began their perpetual crying, wetting Balaram with their tears. Lord Balaram then offered respectful obeisances to the elderly cowherder men, and accepted obeisances of the younger cowherder men. And thus, according to their different ages and relationships, Balaram exchanged feelings of friendship with all of them. Balaram shook hands with those who were his equals in age and friendship, and with loud laughter embraced each one of them. The simple residents of Vrindavan had been aggrieved that Lord Krishna had gone to live elsewhere, so Lord Balaram went there to console them. However, back in Dwaraka, the Yadus were thinking, "Oh, Krishna's beloved girlfriends are famous for their pure ecstatic love, and Krishna's parents are extremely affectionate towards him. Lord Krishna is only controlled by pure love, So if Krishna goes to see the residents of Vrindavan, how will Krishna be able to leave them and come back to us? And so with this in mind, the Yadus prevented Krishna from going, knowing that Krishna becomes subservient to the pastimes in which Krishna reciprocates the ever-increasing love of the inhabitants of Raja. Having long suffered the anxiety of separation, the cowherder men and their wives embraced Lord Balaram, and Balaram then offered respects to his parents, and they joyfully greeted Balaram with prayers. After being received by the cowherder men and boys and the gopis, and as well as Nanda and Yashoda, Lord Balaram sat down, feeling satisfied, and they all surrounded him. First, Lord Balaram inquired from them about their welfare, and then, since they had not seen Balaram for such a long time, they began to ask Balaram different questions. The inhabitants of Vrindavan had sacrificed everything for Krishna, simply being captivated by the lotus eyes of Krishna. And because of their great desire to love Krishna, they never desired anything like elevation to the heavenly planets or merging into the effulgence of Brahman to become one with the absolute truth. The inhabitants of Vrindavan were not even interested in enjoying a life of opulence, but they were satisfied in living a simple life in the village as cowherders. And they were always absorbed in thoughts of Krishna and did not desire any personal benefits. They were all so much in love with Krishna that in Krishna's absence their voices faltered when they began to inquire from Balaramaji. O descendant of Darshaha, O Lord of the universe, may you and your younger brother Krishna ever protect us. My dear Balaram, are our friends like Vasudev and others in the family doing well? Now, you and Krishna are grown-up married men with children. So in the happiness of family life, do you sometimes remember your poor father and mother? Saying this, they raised Balaram onto their laps, embracing him and moistening him with tears from their eyes. Thus, they expressed their respect for the fact that Balaram is the elder brother of Krishna, and they also showed how much they considered Balaram their own son. Lord Balaram then paid proper respects to the elder cowherder men, and the younger ones all greeted Balaram respectfully. Balaram met them all with smiles, handshakes, and so on, dealing personally with each one according to age, degree of friendship, and family relationship. Then, after resting, Balaram accepted a comfortable seat, and they all gathered around him. With voices faltering out of love for Balaram, those cowherders who had dedicated everything to lotus-eyed Krishna asked about the health of their dear ones in Dwaraka, and Balaram in turn asked about the cowherders' welfare. O Ram, are our relatives doing well? And Ram, do all of you with your wives and children still remember us? It is certainly our great fortune that sinful Kamsa has been killed and our dear relatives have been freed. And it is also our good fortune that our relatives have killed and defeated their enemies by finding complete security in the great fortress of Dwaraka. But when the gopis arrived, Lord Balaram glanced over them with loving eyes. Being overjoyed, the gopis, who had so long been mortified on account of Krishna and Balaram's absence, began to ask about the welfare of the two brothers. Honored to have the personal audience of Lord Balaram, the young gopis smiled and specifically asked Balaram, "So, is Krishna, the darling of the city women, is he now living happily?" Lord Krishna's beloved girlfriends were smiling with divine madness, since they were feeling extreme unhappiness in separation from their beloved Krishna. Lord Ram deeply respected that great love they had for Sri Krishna, his younger brother, and thus Balaram honored the gopis as they also honored him. And Balaram, does Krishna remember his family members, especially his father and mother? And do you think Krishna will ever come back even once to see his mother? And does mighty arm Krishna remember the service we always did for him? It was a fact that the gopis would render service to Krishna by stringing flower garlands, skillfully using perfumes, constructing fans, beds, and canopies out of flower petals. And by these simple acts of love, the gopis rendered the greatest service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And the gopis continued, "O descendant of Darshaha, for Krishna's sake, we abandoned our mothers, fathers, brothers, husbands, children, and sisters, even though these family relations are difficult to give up. But now, O Balaram, that same Krishna has suddenly abandoned us and gone away, breaking off all affectionate ties with us. And yet, how could any woman fail to trust Krishna's promises? And then, how can intelligent city women possibly trust the words of Krishna, whose heart is so unsteady and who is so ungrateful? Yes, they must believe Krishna because Krishna speaks so wonderfully, and also because Krishna's beautiful smiling glances arouse their passion. But why bother talking about Krishna, dear gopis? Let us talk of something else. Because if Krishna can pass his time without us, then why shall we similarly pass our time without him? Considering themselves different from other women, the gopis thought that when other women are together with their lovers, they live, and if they are separated, they die. But the gopis neither live nor die. This is the fate Providence had written on the gopis' foreheads. So what remedy could they possibly find? So while speaking and thinking like this, the young cowherder women remembered Lord Krishna's laughter, Krishna's pleasing conversations with them, Krishna's attractive glances, Krishna's style of walking, and Krishna's loving embraces. Thus, the gopis began to cry. And when the gopis were talking in this way, their feelings for Krishna became more and more intense, and they were experiencing Krishna's smiling, Krishna's words of love, Krishna's attractive features, Krishna's characteristics, and Krishna's embraces. And by the force of their ecstatic feelings, it appeared to them that Krishna was personally present and dancing before them. Because of their sweet remembrance of Krishna, the gopis could not check their tears, and they cried without consideration. The gopis were thinking, the Krishna moon, after piercing our hearts with the darts of his nectarian laughter, has gone away. So how will the city women of Dwaraka not die when Krishna does the same to them? Being overwhelmed with these thoughts, the young cowherder girls began to cry, even in the presence of Sri Baladev. The Supreme Lord Balaram, the attractor of all, being expert at various kinds of conciliation, consoled the gopis by relaying to them the confidential messages Lord Krishna had sent with him, and those messages deeply touched the gopis' hearts. Lord Balaram consoled the gopis by giving them Lord Krishna's most charming messages, which expressed sweet conciliation and which were inspired by Krishna's pure love for them, and they without a tinge of pride. One of Balaram's names is Sankarshana. So Balaram attracted Lord Krishna to appear in his mind, and in this way Balaram showed Krishna to all the gopis. Thus Balaram consoled Sri Krishna's beloved gopi girlfriends. Lord Krishna had sent various messages. Some instructed the gopis in transcendental knowledge. Others were conciliatory, and still others revealed Krishna's power. All these messages were confidential. Lord Balaram, the personality of Godhead, resided there in Nanda Gokula for the 2 months of Madhu and Madhav, and during those springtime nights, Balaram gave his own cowherder girls conjugal pleasure. For the gopis who enjoyed conjugal affairs with Balaram during those 2 months Balaram had visited Gokula, those gopis had not taken part in Krishna's rasa dance, being too young at the time. These gopis were particular gopis who act as Lord Balaram's girlfriends. Furthermore, during the holy festivities celebrated when Krishna killed Shankachuda, the gopis Lord Balaram enjoyed with were different from the ones Lord Krishna enjoyed with. So now we get to part 2. So before we get to part 2, we will take a short commercial break, brought to you by the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. In the company of numerous women, Lord Balaram enjoyed in a garden by the Yamuna River. This garden was bathed in the rays of the full moon and caressed by breezes bearing the fragrance of night-blooming lotus flowers. Lord Balaram's conjugal pastimes thus took place in a small forest alongside the Yamuna, a place known as Sri Ram Ghat, which is far from the site of Sri Krishna's Rasa dance. Then, sent by the demigod Varuna, the divine Varuni liquor flowed from a tree hollow and made the entire forest even more fragrant with its sweet aroma. Varuni is a liquor distilled from honey. The goddess Varuni, the daughter of Varuna, is the presiding deity of that particular divine liquor. In other words, you cannot buy this in the shop. Not possible. Varuni thus said to Lord Balaram, "O sinless Balaram, my father Varuna has sent me to you." Then the wind carried to Balaram the fragrance of that flood of sweet liquor, and when Balaram smelled it, he went to the exact tree. There Balaram and his female companions drank Varuni liquor. As the Gandharvas sang his glories, Lord Balaram enjoyed within the brilliant circle of young women. Balaram appeared just like Indra's elephant, the lordly Airavata, enjoying in the company of she-elephants. At that time, kettle drums resounded in the sky. The Gandharvas joyfully rained down flowers, and the great sages praised Lord Balaram's heroic deeds. And as his deeds were being sung, Lord Halayuda wandered as if inebriated among the various forests with his girlfriends. Balaram's eyes rolled from the effects of the divine liquor. Intoxicated with joy, Lord Balaram sported flower garlands, including the famous Vaijayanti. Balaram wore a single earring, and beads of perspiration decorated his smiling lotus face, just like snowflakes. Then Balaram summoned the Yamuna River so that he could play in her waters. But Yamuna disregarded his command. She thought Balaram was intoxicated. This angered Balaram, and he began dragging the river with the tip of his plow. "O sinful one, disrespecting me, you do not come when I call, but rather you move only by your own whim. Therefore with the tip of my plow I shall bring you forcefully here in 1,000 streams." Thus scolded by Balaram, Sri Sri Gaurnitai ki jai, Sri Sri Radha Giridhari ki jai, Jagannath Balaram Subhadra ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Thus scolded by Balaram, the frightened river goddess Yamuna came and fell at the feet of Sri Balaram, the beloved descendant of Yadu. Trembling, Yamuna spoke to Balaram. The goddess Yamuna, who appeared before Balaram, was an expansion of Srimati Kalindi, one of Lord Krishna's queens in Dwaraka. However, this Yamuna was a shadow of Kalindi, not Kalindi or Yamuna herself in her original form. And this is what Yamuna said. "O Ram, O Ram, O mighty armed one, I knew nothing of your prowess, but with the single portion of yourself as Sheshanag, you indeed hold up the earth, O Lord of the universe. My dear Lord Ram, please release me. O soul of the universe, I did not understand your position as the Supreme Godhead, but now I have come to surrender to you, and you are always kind to your devotees. Thereupon, Balaram released the Yamuna, and like the king of the elephants, with his entourage of she-elephants, Balaram entered the river's waters with his female companions. Balaram played in the water to his full satisfaction, and when Balaram came out, Goddess Kanti presented Balaram with blue garments, precious ornaments, and a brilliant necklace. Then, sent by Varuna Deva, Goddess Lakshmi, the consort of Sankarshan, then presented Balaram with a garland of unfading lotus flowers and a pair of garments colored blue like the ocean. O Lord, please accept as divine ornaments for your ears this single gold earring studded with diamonds and this primeval lotus called Padma. Kindly accept them, for this act of adornment is traditional. Lord Balaram then dressed himself in blue garments and put on the gold necklace. Anointed with fragrances and beautifully adorned, Balaram appeared as resplendent as Indra's royal elephant. Anointed with sandalwood paste and other pure fragrant substances, Balaram resembled Airavata, the great elephant of Lord Indra. Even today, one can see how the Yamuna flows through many channels created when it was dragged by the unlimitedly powerful Lord Balaram. She thus demonstrates Balaram's prowess. And so, for Lord Balaram, all the nights passed like a single night as Balaram enjoyed in Vraja, his mind enchanted by the exquisite charm and beauty of Vraja's young ladies. Lord Balaram was enchanted by the charming pastimes of the beautiful young ladies of Vraja, and thus each night was a completely new experience, and all the nights passed as if they were a single night. Lord Balaram ki! Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhyai pacha patitanang pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. So, any questions, comments? Did you enjoy, relish? I know I did. I was transported to Vrindavan. Over the years, people have asked me, Prabhuji, why don't you go to Vrindavan? And I tell them, oh, it costs a lot of money and so much hassle. And now, who wants to go to India now with the COVID-19? But I tell them, even though I don't go to India, all I have to do is read Prabhupada's Krishna book or Srimad Bhagavatam. I'm in Vrindavan. That is the power of Prabhupada's writings. This story, these kinds of story, Krishna stories, this is what convinced me to join this movement. One night, I was very, very upset, disturbed, unhappy, and it was sometime in February 1973. And I could not sleep. And a few weeks ahead, before then, I had gotten the first volume of Krishna book. But at that time, I couldn't read it because there was all these big words, Shiro Dakashayi Vishnu, and it was like too much for me. But on this night, I decided I'm going to force myself to read this book. So it was midnight. I was all alone in a house I was staying with. Chapter 1, Chapter 2. Finally, I finished the first 6 chapters. And the 6th chapter is when Krishna kills the Putana witch. And when I finished that story, I closed the book and I decided I'm going to join Prabhupada's movement. So that was in the end of February. Finally, in July 15th, I walked into the Brooklyn Temple and I said, I am surrendering to Prabhupada and Krishna. Best decision I ever made in my life. Anything else? Any points? Okay. Let's honor Krishna Prasadam to our full satisfaction. Let's do the prayer. Sharira Vijajal Jodendriya Tahikal Jiva Fale Vishaya Sagare Dharmadya Jivati Lobamoy Sadurmati Take Je Takatina Sangsare Krishna Bodhadayamoy Karibhava Jiva Joy Swaprasad Anadilo Bai Senamrita Kau Radha Krishna Gunagao Premidako Chaitanya Nitai Mahaprasada Ki. Thank you very much for listening. May Krishna bless you. Oh, here's Balaram.
Balarama Dasa, yeah. So yeah, we'd like to thank Nirantara Prabhu for making his way down here.